So first things first, some of you know this already, but now is as good of a time as any to reveal. My name is Greg Guevara. Guevara is a Spaniard name. My dad was Spanish. The reason I bring that up, though, isn't because of my ethnicity. It's because of someone I'm related to by blood, Che Guevara. I don't bring him up because I'm exactly the same kind of communist as him, but I just find it funny because I didn't even know I was related to him until 2 years ago when I did a DNA test. And at that time, I think I had very similar views. I was essentially a full-on Marxist-Leninist. I still am, and I didn't even know. So another reason I bring up Che is because growing up in the West, you're fed so much anti-communist propaganda. They say, oh, communism killed 1 billion people or some absurd number. And you have to ask yourself, why is this American propaganda being forced down my throat? Why are they so afraid of socialism? And the reason is because socialism and communism, those are the only things that can pose a real threat to their power. If if cultural leftism, if dyeing your hair pink and kissing a man is your idea of revolting against the system, there's a reason that's extremely profitable. There's a reason that's incorporated so well into liberalism. It's because it's not going to do anything. So yes, I'm a Marxist-Leninist. I got my start, I think, the same way a lot of Marxist-Leninists get their start. I was interested in theory. I could never really put my finger on what I didn't like about the status quo, about going to work, about the world that we live in. I knew from a very young age I was very upset about injustices in terms of the environment and destruction of natural resources. And also, I worked at some minimum wage jobs that treated me very poorly. I actually ate this up for a decent amount of time when I was working those minimum wage jobs. But as soon as I started doing my own research, I realized I had been lied to my whole life by people who wanted me to think that socialism was a bad idea. And I thought to myself, this is just the way the world works. Eventually, through recommendation, I started reading some Marxist literature, and that was really good for me. It got me thinking about the kinds of ways we as people can work together to combat capitalism. So whenever I say that I'm a Marxist-Leninist, people immediately have a very deep, guttural reaction. It's funny, I get worse reactions than I think I would get if I were a fascist. Here's something I hate. People always ask me, so you support China then? And if the question is, do I support China over America? Then the answer is yes. So look, I'm very critical of plenty of so-called communist regimes. I really am. But you look at China and, you give China 50 years, they might literally become an actual socialist post-currency utopia. You give America 50 years, it's not going to get any better. It's still going to be a capitalist hellscape, every man for himself. People are going to be dying on the streets. I think China's got a much better shot. And America is kind of a piece of shit country. You look at what they do to third world countries. As soon as they mention socialism, the CIA comes in and stages a coup and places a fascist in place instead of a socialist. Okay, so that's China. And then the other thing is Stalin. I have to defend Stalin now. I'm not going to defend Stalin. I don't like Stalin. I am critical of Stalin's regime. I'm critical of all Marxist regimes. I don't think any Marxist regime was run completely perfectly. But that being said, give me Stalin over a liberal any day. This is my frustration with anarchists, and this is why, I call them anarchitties. It literally is a childish notion to be an anarchist. Okay, I was an anarchist at one point in my life, but I was 16. So you have to forgive me. I also, at 16, I had never even read any anarchist theory or anything. So I don't know. I think I was mainly an anarchist in aesthetic only. I think after 16, it's time to start reevaluating your anarchism. This is my main gripe with anarchists is that they are so critical of a regime just existing that they'll never allow it to exist, and as a result, they will never truly be able to combat capitalism. The need for global communism is so prevalent right now, especially because of stuff like climate change. That's a great example of a problem caused by capitalism that needs collective action, which is working beyond the constraints of the economy to solve that problem. I think a lot of people are getting a taste of socialism right now through the government, giving them a little bit of time off to deal with this pandemic. And I think people are going to start thinking about that, and they're going to be moving a little bit more economically left wing. Also, another quick note about this pandemic for the anarchists. Do you think it matters what people's pronouns are when they're on a respirator? It doesn't. Your personal identity is irrelevant in the face of catastrophe. What matters is how many ventilators you have, how many masks you have. Physical, material needs is the most important thing. So it's not that I don't respect people who are marginalized. It's that the way to liberate those people isn't by focusing on the aspects of marginalization. It's by unifying through class a common struggle. And that common struggle is, you can't afford a respirator. There's this really naive notion, and you get this from fascists and capitalists, like whatever, but coming from the left, it's annoying. There's the naive notion that a socialist state should just abolish all currency and just become a communist utopia overnight. That's not how it works. You're never going to have a communist utopia while capitalist systems still exist. You have to get rid of capitalism across the world before the utopia can be achieved. I use utopia, with air quotes. I also don't think once we achieve communism, everyone's going to be super happy all the time. I just think we're not going to be dying on the streets. Again, though, I don't want to shit on anarchists too much because I do think that there are a lot of cases where anarchists can work together with Marxist-Leninists to achieve common left-wing goals. And I also don't want to sound like I'm dismissing the progressive cause. I sympathize with it. It's just I don't think it's effective. The other thing is, look at elections. When elections roll around, there's plenty of progressives who are actually capitalists. The only real leftist candidates are those who are leftist economically. So again, that's just to show leftist economics always trumps everything else. That's the most important thing. And there's really no point in trying to argue any other way. I don't think this should come as much of a shock. I portray the socialist in the Center Side series as the most reasonable moderate. He just says capitalism should probably be restrained because unrestrained capitalism is killing lots of people. And yeah, obviously I sympathize with the communists the most. If you look at how I write him, he basically is always on the right. He's always powerful. He's always strong. He always knows what he's doing. Kind of what I aspire to be. So yeah, now you know what I am. Thank you so much for 200,000 subscribers. I really do think we're mobilizing something here. If somebody is confused about my political ideology or anything, just send them this video, and that should clear things up for them. And now they'll know what I am when they watch the rest of my videos. It should give them context. But yeah, thank you.